And Rashi, the Torah portion, final one from the book of Shmos, Exodus, the second book. Parshas Pekudei, we are in the third portion. We continue with the things that were made for the service in the Mishkan, the sanctuary. Okay, wonderful. Okay, chapter 39, verse 22. V'yasis me'il ha'ephod, and he made the robe, the ephod, right? It was worn under the ephod. Just a reminder, pictures. This is the robe. Got it? Right over here. The me'il was on top of it. Right? And on the bottom is had the bells and whistles, right? The bells and the pomegranates, right? Recording has begun. Can't leave it, let people in. Thank you. Okay, so the robe under the ephod, Maseh Oireg, it's a woven Khalil Techelis made out of turquoise wool. Elfi Me'il, and the edge. What does fi mean usually? Mouth, peh, from the word, right? So the mouth of the me'il, meaning the top edge, right? Like the mouth has got edges, right? Meaning the collar, but I'm just trying to give you the understanding of the words themselves, so you see how here, it says collar, which is true, right? B'seicha kifi sachra. So it was in it, meaning it was folded over. Kifi sachra, like a collar of a coat of mail. Safa lefiv, all around it, to the edges, saviv lo yikara, and around it, do not rip it. Okay? And it shouldn't be ripped, right? So, yeah, so it should not be ripped, or it should not be ripped because it's a prohibition not to rip it. Okay. 24, V'yasu. It's interesting. Now it's in plural. Till now, and Rashi doesn't pick up on it. Look at the previous verse. V'yas is singular. V'yasu is plural. The vav, right, with the shuruk at the end, makes it they made. In verse 22, it was he made. Right? So, any case, al shulei ha'me'il. So they made on the lower hem of the me'il. Remayne tcheles. They made pomegranates that are turquoise. The argamon, they're made from turquoise and purple. Shanis, mashzar, and scarlet wool intertwined. So no linen here. They're made out of 3 different types of wool. The pomegranates, right? 25 continues. V'yasu pa'amayne zahav, again in plural. They made that pa'amayne zahav. Pa'amayne is the bells made out of gold, tohar, or pure gold. V'yitnu is pa'amaynim b'seichar imaynim, and they put the bells between the pomegranates, al shulei me'il, on the lower hem of the me'il, saviv, all around, seichar imaynim, in between the pomegranates. Pa'amayin rimayin. A pa'amayin Then a remite, a pama and a remite. Why does it have to repeat that? I think we had that in Parshas Tetzaveh, but I don't remember. Right, because it's repeating. It just said a pomegranate in between. Okay, why? That's not an answer.
You have to repeat it because if there is a repetition, if you only do it once, it could mean it's just one pomegranate and one bell.
No, it says around. No, in 25 it says all the way around.
Okay.
Anyways, a bell of pomegranate, I'll show you a meal on the lower hem of the meal, saviv all around, the sharis, to serve, to be used in service, kasher tziva Hashem as Moshe, as Hashem had commanded Moshe. Okay, continue, 27. V'yasu, and they made, it's a ketones, they made the ketones, that's the tunic, that's an undergarment. Here's a tunic. It looks very much like the robe. Here's a tunic, here's the robe. They look pretty, pretty similar, right?
The tunic is the undergarment.
It's undergarment under the robe, under the, right, under the me'il, right? So make the tunic sheish, but it's made from a different material. It looks the same, but it's a different material. Sheish, make it from linen. Maisei oirig, a woven artistic, doing. La'aron levanav, this is for Aaron and his sons, right? In other words, it's both for the high priest and regular kohen. There's a mitznefis, and the mitznefis is the turban. This was for Aaron, because he had a mitznefis. Sheish, made out of linen. Ves pare ha-migbois sheish. And the splendid linen hats, as it translates over here, sheish, also out of the migbois, that was for the sons of Aaron. That was also made from linen, from sheish. It's michnasei habad. And the trousers, 3/4 length. Interesting. I don't have a picture of it. How come? Yeah. Okay. I don't. Trousers, 3/4 length. Bad. Sheish Mashdar is made out of twisted linen. Rashi, Vespera Mikbois, Tiferes Mikbois, the splendor of the hats, Mikbois and Mefoaris. In other words, the magnificent hats. 29. The Es Ha'avnate. These are this is the gartel, right? The sash, the belt, if you will. Right. Here it is. The way it's like on a bar, right? Hanging on a bar. A gartel. So this sash, this belt, if you will, sheish majzar, is made from linen that is twisted. But it's also interesting. It's made from 3 different types of wool, right? From the turquoise, the purple, and the scarlet wool. Maisei reikim. This is an embroidered work. Kasher tziva Hashem as Moshe, as Hashem had commanded Moshe. Right, and that was worn by all the Kohanim, the high priest and the regular Kohen. Verse number 30, V'yasu es tzitz, again in plural, and they made the tzitz. Tzitz is the forehead plate, right? Nezer HaKodesh, it had a holy crown to it. Zohav Torah, made out of pure gold. V'yichtavu, and they wrote olav upon it. Michtav, writing, script. Pituchei chaisim, like a signet ring. Like a signet ring. In other words, protruding, right? Pituchei chaisim. Kodesh Lashem, it said, holy unto God. Huh?
Kodesh Hashem.
Yeah. Kodesh, no, the words were Kodesh Lashem only. Chotam means inscribed. Okay?
Yeah.
31. Vayitnu alav, and they placed upon it on what? The tzitz? Psil techeles, turquoise wool, lases, alamitz nefes, to place it over the turban, milamayla, from above. Here. Here's a picture. See, there's strings over here. And the strings, it went on his forehead like this, right? A gold plate. And then he had his hat over here. Hey, look at that. I got one. Could be the Kohen Gadol. Except I don't come from the tribe of but yeah, I'm not a Kohen. Not, for the right price.
Start charging for my ideas.
Yeah. Right. So it was over here, and then there was strings from on the sides that went this way. The strings went on here and went over on top, so kind of made, held it, and then it was tied in the back, so I held it, on the forehead.
Well, 6 strings, I believe.
Yeah. So they placed the psil techeles, l'seis ala mitznefes, to put it on the mitznefes, the turban, the hat of the Kohen Gadol, milamayla, from above, Hashem es Moshe, as Hashem commanded Moshe. So here we have a big Rashi. Okay, let's see Rashi here. Yeah, Parshas Tetzaveh. What? Yeah, it's the whole thing's a repetition. We spoke about this many times. Many times spoke about this. Okay, Rashi, let's say, says mitznefes. In 31, they put the mitznefes from above. What does that mean? By means of the strings. So it would rest the tzitz on the mitznefes like a crown. You can't say the tzitz itself was on the hat, right? It wasn't on the hat. Because we learn in the Talmud, because the hair of the Kohen Gadol was visible between the tzitz, right? So there was hair between the tzitz, right? So it couldn't be on it. So it was in front of it on the forehead, right? Because there he placed his tefillin. He put his tefillin over here, in the space between the tzitz and the mitznefes and the hat. So the tzitz was placed on the forehead. So it comes out that the hat, the mitznefes, was higher on the head, and the tzitz was below on the forehead. So what does it mean that it was upon the mitznefes from above, which implies that the tzitz was situated on the mitznefes? In addition, I've asked about this subject kan, who I may hear it says, let's see, you put the turquoise strings, right, implying that the string was on the tzitz. And while in the context of the command to make the tzitz, it says, well, you should put the string on the turquoise, put it into the string of the turquoise wool, implying that the tzitz was on the string. 1 second. So here it implies that the tzitz is that the string is on the plate. But in Parshas Tzitzav, it sounds like implying that the tzitz was on the string. The other way around. I don't know what that means, to be quite frank. So I said that the string of the turquoise wool consists of cords with which to fasten the tzitz on the mitznefes, because the tzitz was from ear to ear. Yeah. How would the Kohen Gadol fasten it to his forehead? Therefore, it had to be fastened to the mitznefes. So there were threads of turquoise wool inserted into the tzitz at the two ends and its middle. Then he would tie it and hang it from the mitznefes when it was on his head. And there were two threads on either end. And one above and one below to the side of the forehead. Right? Because that makes it easy to tie. And you don't tie something less than two strings. That's why it says both on the tzitz and the string of the wool, alav tchelis, that there was a string of turquoise wool on it. So they would tie it behind against the back of the neck, and rest on it would rest on the hat. So don't be puzzled by the fact that it says strings in plural of turquoise wool. Because there were many. So there were no less than two strings, because the two lower corners of the choshen had two rings of the choshen of kitzvos even hayushtei ta'abois even shekenegdam. Arba chutim hayu. Mikol malkom v'chutim mishnayim yashar. He just wants to show how there had to be two strings. Yeah. Okay. Last, all the work of making the Mishkan and the tent of meeting, Techal had finished. He completed it. Yasu b'nei Yisrael kichol asher tziv Hashem es Moshe kin also. And they did, the b'nei Yisrael, all that was commanded by God to Moshe, so they did. Rashi Yasu b'nei Yisrael. So malach kol asher tziv Hashem. All of the work exactly as God had commanded Moshe.
Not more, not less.
Yeah, precisely. Okay, let's see some thoughts from the Rebbe here.
So finish.
Yeah, and well, it's not finished. I mean, it's finished in the making. Now they bring it to Moshe, right?
Ritual. About the, okay, not making that up. Bottle,
There's no water left there?
bottle of water, water.
Okay. So in verse 29, it says that the sash, the belt, right, is made from linen, also turquoise purple and scarlet wool. So the Rebbe says the avnate, this belt, this gartel, right, was the one thing from all of the clothing. Second. Of the Kohen Gadol, of both Kohen Gadol and Kohen, it was shatnez, because it's wool and linen, right? Now, where else did we have wool and linen? No,
On the bottle, it's just, no.
no. Where else was wool and linen made in the Mishkan? No, we're just saying now that one piece of item of clothing is the gartel was made of wool and linen, right? That's what the verse 29. Look at verse 29. Well, whatever, that's a different story. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about where else in the Mishkan was wool and linen. The covering, that the
Inner covering.
no, yeah, some of the inner coverings, right, of the right, not of the RA, of the skins. No, the skins didn't have it. Not the skins. I'm sorry. They were just skins.
The other layer was skins.
I have to take a look. Okay, in any case, I don't recall now. So this has shotness, right? As it says very clearly, sheish is linen, and the turquoise, purple, and scarlet are wool, and that's what it's made from. So the Rebbe, of course, why would that be? And the Torah is saying to make it that way, so it means you have to make it, right? So the Rebbe explains according to Pnimis Inyanim. In other words, he's not giving the simple explanation. He's giving the deeper explanation. So it's explained in Kabbalah and in Chassidus that the foundation for the prohibition. You hear me, guys? Yeah? Of the prohibition of kiloyim, which is mixtures, right? Forbidden mixtures, like here, wool and linen, is because tzemer, wool, hints to, embodies in material to the attribute of kindness. Pishtan, linen is wool is soft, right? Soft. Linen is harsher kind of material, right? That's the midah, the attribute of gvura, the opposite, right? Strength. The coming together of the both of them when they come together, these two attributes, They don't they don't match together so well. Therefore, there's a prohibition, right? They don't match. Likewise, basar b'cholav. Cholav is chesed, right? Milk and meat. Milk is kindness, and meat is gvura. Red meat, right? That's gvura. That also doesn't come together well. So together with that, and very lofty levels of spirituality, the two contradictory kind of attributes are able to blend together because they become nullified to the greater revelation of the divine beyond them. That's the idea of Oisei Shalom Bimraima, that God makes peace on high. Who does he make peace on high between? Mechol, who is the prince of Chesed, and Gavriel, who's the prince of Gevura. Fire and water. Mechol is water, Gavriel is fire. Mechol is water, Chesed, and Gavriel is fire. Water goes from the highest place to the lowest place. Chesed comes from a lofty place above. It's the giver to the recipient, from above to below. Fire is Gevura, strength. Strength comes from where? From above? From within. Right? Strength of character is coming from within. Your own personal strength comes from within. Not something acquired from beyond. It comes from within you. Like fire, starts from below and arises upwards. Okay? That's Gvura. So that's it, right? In other words, so over here, Mechol, who is water, water puts out fire, or fire evaporates water. Right? So God on high needs to make peace between them. Because when you stand by something greater than yourself, right? You're an angel. Yeah, but I'm an angel of Chesed. And I'm an angel of Gvura. You know, we don't see eye to eye. But when you stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you stand before the king, before God, so what happens? As two ministers have enmity between themselves, because each one's vying for their ministry, their position as a minister of the king. They want, they feel that their ministry is more important, right? So the agriculture minister is vying for more money for agriculture, and the finance is saying, no, don't give more. But when they stand before the king, there's no enmity between them, right? There's no enmity. Same thing in Bechol and Gavriel, when they stand before Hashem, Oisei Shalom Bimraima, he makes peace, right? Is that clear? Where else could you make peace? Just on high? Can you make it on low? How? No. How do you make Shalom Bayit? When there's something greater than the two of them, that's how you're going to make Shalom Bayit. Otherwise, there's no Shalom Bayit. If each one is holding their own, there's no Shalom Bayit. Right? Mechol is holding his own, Gavriel is holding his own, there's no Shalom Bayit. Right? Huh? When you stand before someone who's greater, like Aaron, So then you could create Shalom Bayis because of his greatness. So then that you could create Shalom Bayis, right? That good, but that's an example. But where is a place that is a permanent place that creates that? It's called the Beis Hamikdash, right? Why? Why? Because God dwells there, right? In the Holy of Holies, the Shekhinah is there. And therefore, in the avodah, in the service of the Kohanim, they could wear their avnei, they could wear their gartel that has shatnez, because there it's not a contradiction, right? It's not a contradiction. Is that clear? Okay.
Yeah. Clear.
That's what, right? So there's no isser of a mixture of linen and wool, and therefore the avnate, the gartel, was a mixture of linen and wool. So you have a question now, or is everything answered?
Question.
You should have no. If you're following, it should be natural. The next question, if you're following. So why only the gartel? Why is it specifically the gartel? Why not some other garment? Is a mixture of wool and linen. It's only the gartel. Only the avnate. Right? That would be the natural next question, right?
Yeah, upper and lower.
So the rest of the bigodim, they have a purpose. What's their purpose? Is to cover the body of the kohen, right? It's just to cover the body of the kohen. I would have thought it would be also. Okay. In a manner of l'chava l'sifaris. Okay, the footnote it said what I was thinking, not just to cover it, is to give honor and glorification to the kohen, right? That's what the purpose of right? The avnate, right? The gartel, on the other hand, wasn't there to cover the body and to glorify and give honor to to the person, but it is the general preparation to engage in the avodah. As the Gemara says, Israel, prepare yourself to greet your God Israel. And how do you do that? How do you do that? By putting on a gartel. By putting on a gartel. So what comes out of this in our divine service? The rest of the clothing of the Kohanim is a sign, a specific sign in let's see, is a particular in other words, it's a particular detail in your divine service and how the clothes are to cover the body and to bring honor and glory. But the avne, the sash, the gartel, is a sign of a complete giving yourself over to Hashem, in the foundational giving yourself over in the entire Avodah. And therefore, that's specifically why the gartel was made from shatnez, koloim, because it's the gartel that is that particular sign of the complete self-effacement before Hashem, one that causes the and a self-effacement, giving yourself entirely over to the Avodah, not a particular aspect of, of the service, that therefore, since it's a completely giving yourself over, right, in the preparation for the Avodah, therefore it's able to bring the contradictory the attributes of Chesed and Gvura together in a manner that Oisei Shalom, that we make peace through them, and they are not a contradiction, one to the other. Wow.
He made sheets of goat's hair as a tent to spread over the tapestry that formed the first cover of the tabernacle. So it's goat's hair that was the first cover.
Yeah. No, I retract it from that. Okay, folks, we'll see you in a few moments in that was something else.